Hello, and welcome to American Amnesia. I'm your host, Cliff Garner. And last time I was on, I was hoping to get around to talking about Turkey a bit. And I got a little bit diverted. Although some of it was some important things about Turkey, I did get off onto other things. Turkey is really in the news quite a bit right now, and for good reason. And I've long maintained that Erdogan's combination of religious bigotry and his own personal sense of destiny, he is surrounded by people who tell him that he's the Mahdi. This is well known within Turkey. It has been put on the news in Turkey. However, they've not translated a lot of that into English, and for whatever reason, they haven't done so. I have no clue, but it should be known. The man's a maniac. He believes that he is bringing on the apocalypse. You know, I've heard people say that about Reagan. I saw very little evidence that Reagan was trying to do that, but you know, with Erdogan, you do see it, and it's there. He's just as nuts as Ahmadinejad. Only he has probably a stronger country in every way, except for right now, except for financial. And you know, I could get into the biblical prophecy aspect of it all. I won't, outside of just pointing out that Magog, or actually Gog of Magog, Gug, or Gyges, as the Greek transcription has been done, of Magog, was a historical person, and he was a leader of Lydia, which is really the Turkish kingdom, well, not Turkish, but the Anatolian kingdom that was in place prior to the rise of the Persians. In fact, they lost at the Persians' expansion, and the Greeks actually moved in the long term, and basically converted the whole area into a Greek-speaking area. And that goes into the history of it, and it's fascinating, and I love to get into that. I might even do some of the things on this, but the fact is that you don't need Russia involved. What you do need for that prophecy to come about is the agreements between Ethiopia, or what suffices for Ethiopia. Sudan would be a good example. In fact, Sudan is actually the area they're talking about in the Bible. So that connection to Turkey is already there. The connection with Iran has been deepening for years. It was going on while I was living there from 2008 to 2008 until 2014, halfway through the year. And that fact is demonstrable. We have the fellow Zarab, he's on trial over here, and he was the one that worked with Erdogan himself, and of course his family as well, in laundering money sent to Iran through the gold market, causing the gold market collapse in 2013. Another demonstrable point, one that hasn't been completely covered up. The fact is that Erdogan has tried to expunge records coming out of Turkey regarding him and his corruption and his dirty deeds. But the fact is that we can demonstrate that he, probably in tandem with Obama and his administration set up the Arab Spring and caused the fall of Gaddafi, caused the rise of ISIS. And then they moved into Syria to expand the war there. And ISIS was one of the great beneficiaries of Erdogan's beneficence, which he received the money from Saudi Arabia and the U.S. and arms from the U.S. and also sent through the UAE and also money as well. The people that he supported were the Muslim Brotherhood, the al-Nusra Front, which is al-Qaida, and ISIS, which was al-Qaida in Iraq, and they split again from at one time being al-Qaida aligned to no longer being aligned with them, and splitting off and becoming their own group, which they were to begin with. Zarqawi, I get Zarqawi and Zawahiri mixed up. Zawahiri is still alive. He's a Muslim Brotherhood member from Egypt that has been the head of al-Qaeda de facto, I think, more than anything. And Zarqawi was the alcoholic who was working out his his redemption through jihad, and started the group that now is ISIS, that mutated a bit. The mutations are interesting. I'll do a little history on that sometime, I'm sure, just for the sheer fun of it. Actually, I am going to be starting school soon, but I think I'll have time to at least get something in once or twice a week anyway, and I hope to get some good material to you actually. And what I have today is a few things on Turkey and Erdogan and the situation over there. This first one is an opinion article from Turkish Minute. It's a magazine, online magazine, I believe. And it, of course, dwells on Turkey. The writer is a fellow named Abdullah Bozkurt. And the article is Turkey's Erdogan continues to fuel war in Libya. And he still is. He's still continuing that struggle going. He has been working with the al-Qaeda and al-Nusra, not al-Nusra, ISIS aligned militias in Libya to fight against the government that we've supposedly recognized, the provisional government there. Well, it might not be provisional anymore, but the government that's supposedly established and all that, so they can maintain banking and such. I mean, that whole Libya deal was stunk from the beginning. And Erdogan's total 180 in his non-aligned, or actually I shouldn't say non-aligned, but independent approach to world politics, especially vis-a-vis the Muslim and Arab world. He made a complete 180 from the good neighbor policy that he had with Assad and Gaddafi to actively destroying them. And there's only one person that had the wherewithal to offer him something attempting enough to him, which would have been actually Barack Obama, that caused this complete change of heart that he experienced, and made the Arab Spring possible. And this has had ongoing consequences for the whole world. And we have the slave markets in Libya, and we can imagine Erdogan's feelings of race over there, because he's really not any nicer to blacks within Turkey. And if his master Muhammad's ideas are any indication, the word raisin heads was what he used to use for abd, black slaves. This word is actually quite repulsive, but we won't go into that now. So I'll begin. With yet another Libyan-bound ship carrying explosives from Turkey seized by the Greek Coast Guard on January 10th, 2018, the Islamist government of President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan has once again come under renewed scrutiny of international monitors who are trying to cut off the flow of arms and ammunition to the war-torn country under the UN Security Council sanctions regime. You'll notice that the so-called peacekeeping and stuff of the UN is being undermined by Erdogan. And he continues to do this. He has been doing it all along. I mean, why would he stop? He's been funneling men and arms and material from Libya into Turkey and Syria and back and forth. Why would he stop? He hasn't stopped. He won't stop. And right now he's had such setbacks in Syria, not only from the U.S., but from just his general ineptitude. Where is he going to apply pressure? Well, he's going to maintain it in Libya. He can't touch Egypt, which he would love to do. And he made all his efforts while the Muslim Brotherhood was still in power. Just so you know, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, the AKP party that he has been the master of, ruler through as well, this party is Turkish Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, the Muslim Brotherhood didn't form in the manner it did in the Arab world. Instead, in Turkey, it took the form of certain political movements that morphed into the AKP. And they were existent through different parties that some of them still exist in maybe a kind of residual form, but the AKP, or AKP, if you want to pronounce it the way we do in English, that party is the Muslim Brotherhood. Period. Don't make a mistake on that. That is what it is. So don't let anybody lie to you on that. That's the truth. And not only that, another thing we can take away on this is that there are some pretty nasty things going on between Greece and Turkey, and they have been all along. But Turkey was pushing a lot of those refugees through Greece, and also through Macedonia, and not just Macedonia, but also through Kosovo, which the U.S. and Turkey are the only ones that seem to think Kosovo's a real country, which it really isn't. And I'll go into that some time too. There's a lot to say there, but actually they deliberately made that an Albanian enclave in order to destroy the heart of the Serbians. I do have friends from Serbia that will tell you all about it, and very gladly. Maybe I'll get one or two online sometime here. So there's a lot to take away from that first paragraph. But the ships carrying explosives from Turkey going to Libya were seized by the Greek Coast Guard going through Greek waters, and this was in violation of some of the agreements and everything else from the UN. The next paragraph. Speaking at a Security Council meeting on January 22nd, 2018, Libyan representative to the UN, Al-Mahdi S. El-Majurbi, El-Majurbi, or El-Majurbi. Oh, that's probably right. El-Majurbi, excuse me, condemned the attempt to send explosives to Libya in the hold of a ship named the Andromeda, and expressed hope that the Greek and Turkish governments would share the results of their investigations into these matters. Okay. And, of course, the Turkish government's going to whitewash this. And this El-Mahdi El-Majurbi is probably, I'm going to guess, Arab by the nature of the name, although I could be wrong. It could be Pakistani or something along that lines, but I think Arab. He asked that the UN panel of experts that monitors arms transfers under sanctions regime established pursuant to Resolution 1970 from 2011 to launch an investigation to shed light on the circumstances. He said his government stands strongly against whoever tries to destabilize the security and stability situation and endanger the lives of civilians in Libya. The Tanzanian-flagged vessel with 8 crew members set off from Turkey's Mediterranean ports of Mersin and Iskenderun and was carrying some 400 tons of explosives in 29 containers with detonators, ammonium nitrate, and special gel, all materials that can be used in building bombs. Mersin is the port for the ancient port of Taurus. It's been silted up, and for the very, very ancient city of Adana. And they're kind of a tri-city area there, and they're all pretty large, actually. Beautiful area, great weather, right on the Mediterranean, and very warm. Good food. Adana has the best kebabs, and they're nice and spicy. I love them. Anyway, the Greek Coast Guard intercepted the ship off the coast of the Greek island of Crete and impounded it in the port of Heraklion. Although the bill of lading showed the cargo was loaded in Turkey and destined for Djibouti and Oman, the captain confessed that he was ordered to take the shipment to the Libyan city of Misrata. Okay, one of the ports there. Oh, by the way, Iskenderun, a very interesting city. It's in Alexandretta in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And I went through there. Beautiful place, wonderful beaches. And that is where the arms from Benghazi were shipped to Turkey. Now, most of them were shipped to Syria itself, but a lot of them were shipped to Turkey, and that was the port at which they were brought to, and the arms were quickly sent to Antakya, which is ancient Antioch. It's on the border with Syria, and also up around Gaziantep, which is further out east, and it's between Syria and Iraq. And these are cities, not only ancient cities, but if you go to Şanlıurfa, which is very near to Antakya, only it's further inland, you are in Mesopotamia. This is the ancient city, and it has a very long history and legends of such people as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Lot was from around there. Also Job, and not only that, Nimrod is supposed to have ruled over that area. And if you know about the history of the Chaldeans, that was the staging area in which they moved south into the ancient areas of Akkad, which prior to Akkad was ruled by the Sumerians. And so the Babylonians would have come from the Chaldeans, and that was their staging area into that realm. there is a question as to whether Şanlıurfa or Ur, further south, is the Ur of the Chaldees. There's a debate on this. And I personally think it's further north. There are a lot of connections of a lot of the myth and stuff from that ancient Sumer, actually further north. And there's evidence that the culture had taken root up that far. Any rate, so we have we see that there's arms and all this stuff, and it's a pretty nasty piece of work there. This incident is reminiscent of the case of a Bolivian registered ship called the Haddad I that was seized in September 2015 by the Greek Coast Guard while transporting a concealed arms shipment from Turkey to Libya. These things have been happening pretty regularly. They caught 2. Can you imagine how many have actually gone through? And Greece and Turkey are close enough to war as it is. Erdogan has threatened to take the islands from them and annex them. 2 containers of 5,000 weapons produced by Torun Arms and 500,000 rounds of ammunition produced by Yavaşçılar, 2 Turkish arms manufacturers, were found. Yavaşçılar was taken over by arms dealer Latif Aro Alish, who is very close to Erdogan. He's one of his pals. And a lot of his pals get all these wonderful breaks financially, and often even appropriating the properties of other people and giving them to his friends as a gift. And that's what he did with most of the one-time free press and very diverse press of Turkey. It isn't so diverse any longer. There's very little opposition press remaining. And that's television, radio, and newspaper, and magazines, and publishing. Hello. According to the UN panel of experts who investigated the incident, Turkish authorities tried to mislead on the facts of the shipment. Initially, the Turkish government claimed the arms were destined for Lebanon. And why would they go there? Why would they go there? Lebanon's independent. Not only that, he's been at war with Syria, and Syria and Lebanon are very close. Why wouldn't they go there? Think about it. And the ammunition for the Sudanese police. Oh, well, that's just what they need, just to shoot up more civilians. However, an inspection revealed no evidence to support this claim, but rather revealed contradictory evidence in the form of a nautical chart from the bridge and cargo manifest, which indicated that the shipment was bound for Misrata, just like the claim was. The testimony of the crew members was also corroborated this account. The Turkish government changed its story when challenged, as usual. And this time claimed hunting rifles, /cartridge, pistol blanks, and rubber bullets are not subject to sanctions, and that they did not require a license either. Oh, well, try that tack, right? Oh, yeah, no, don't worry, nothing to see here. And, of course, bullying would come along sooner or later. Right, he's very pushy, very good at that. The UNSC Sanctions Committee did not agree with that assessment, stressing that they, too, were subject to restrictions. The Haddad I already had a record of smuggling arms to Libya, according to the UN inspectors who had collected intelligence on an illicit shipment of arms and ammunition to Libya during the visit to Tobruk in July 2015. Libyan authorities reported the seizure of 4 containers of arms and ammunition destined for Misrata that had been found aboard the vessel. According to maritime data, the Haddad I sailed to Tobruk in June 2015. Imagine that. And they took the arms there. See, like I say, how many times have they gotten away with it without getting caught? Now, Haddad, by the way, is the name of the rain god who is actually Baal in the Bible. His name's Haddad, just so you know. I hear people say, Baal's the sun god. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a weather god, storm god, known by many names. But Hadad is the Semitic name for him, or one of them. He has others too. And in November 2016, I discovered a document in a cache of leaked emails from Erdogan's son-in-law and energy minister Berat Albayrak, who was approached by the owner of a bankrupt sea shipping and container company asking for compensation from the Turkish government for damage his ship sustained while transporting arms between Libyan ports on the orders of authorities in Ankara, namely Erdogan. The buck does stop with him, by the way. It really does. Although he'll fudge it, but he's usually pretty proud of it. Piece of crap. The letter was sent to Al-Barak by his aide Ertuğrul Altın on July 8th, 2014, after the latter received it from Mumin Şahin, actually, the owner of the freight company and his brother-in-law. That's right after I left. No, that was even before I left. I was still there. In the letter, Şahin revealed all the details of a Turkish government-approved arms shipment to the rebels in Libya while trying to secure compensation for damages the freighter sustained during the voyage. See, you can't blame the guy. He's got all this damage done to his boat, and the Turkish government he wants him to reimburse him. So that there's a paper trail here. You're not going to see it with every case. In fact, most cases they probably won't have any damage, but this one there was. Why? Who knows? They might have had a fire or something, set off some ammunition, or maybe something blew up on its own or whatever. Just all kinds of things go wrong. But he's making a claim. Paper trail. The freighter, the Irmak. Is it Irmak or Irmak? I think it's Irmak. Was first contracted by a controversial charity group, the Humanitarian Relief Foundation, IHH, which is backed by the Erdogan government. The IHH is a really interesting group. They were the ones behind the sending of the Mavi Marmara to the port of Gaza that was shot up by the Israeli government. They're also involved in a very interesting scandal between Germany and Turkey, in which money was laundered by the millions, if not billions, of dollars, stolen out of Germany and sent to Turkey through this charity called the Lighthouse. What was the name in Turkish? I can't think right now, but it's called Lighthouse, and the Turkish name it's pretty well known for. I can't think of the name right at the moment. I used to know it off the top of my head. This is a very, very important scandal. It hasn't gone away, although Turkey has swept it under the rug, and Germany would like not to talk about it too. But it is a sore spot between the two countries. It is also I think that Erdogan is using it in a way of blackmailing certain ranking Turks in Germany to keep them in line, to keep the money coming, quite frankly, and to maintain his hold over the Turks there so that they can vote in coming elections. They tend to vote very strongly for the AKP. And they've been very strong supporters of his. Now, elsewhere in the EU, this has not always been the case, and the rest of the EU resists his interference in their politics. That actually, the Germans should resent it more than they do. But that's the way it is. But this IHH is very important, and I'll read this again. The freighter, the Irmak, was first contracted by the controversial charity group, the Humanitarian Relief Foundation, the IHH. That's the name in Turkish. It's the acronym, which is backed by the Erdogan government. And he makes a lot of money through them and sends a lot of money through them around the world. This is also a group that has members that are establishing mosques all through the Turkish mosques, no less, all through the Balkans. So there you go. The IHH, accused of arms tracking to Syria and documents provided by Russia at the UN Security Council, loaded humanitarian supplies on this Libyan-bound ship in Istanbul's Zeytinburnu port, which is a nice place. The cargo was offloaded at the port of Misrata on April 22nd, 2011. On its return trip, the ship was contracted by a Shell Turkish-Libyan partnership to deliver a cargo from Benghazi to Misrata. The contract said in its manifest that the 16 containers included medical supplies, which he did also when he was caught shipping arms, money, and all kinds of goodies to al-Nusra and ISIS, and was busted red-handed in Adana that it was supposedly medical supplies. Okay, now that was in 2011 or 12. I think it was 12. During the loading process, the ship's captain, Abdullah Shahin, became suspicious and wanted to check the contents to make sure they were not listed as prohibited goods under international rules and regulations. When he realized that the cargo was arms rather than medical supplies as indicated in the contract, he refused to load it onto the ship. The next day, the Turkish consul general in Benghazi, Ali Davutoğlu, and a Libyan official named Muhammad al-Riyat paid a visit to the ship's captain to pressure him. Davutoğlu said that the shipment was approved by Erdogan's prime ministry and that the shipment was a matter of national security for Turkey. He noticed that Çağatay Erciyesolu of the foreign ministry was aware of the case and was monitoring the shipment's progress. The captain balked at the pressure. The captain was later invited to the Turkish consulate general in Benghazi to be further pressured, but the talks broke down, this time over the shipment fee. In the end, the Libyan officials seized the transport documentation, forcing the captain to agree to a deal by allowing 26, not 16 as originally declared, containers full of arms onto the ship. Interesting. The ship entered the port of Misrata on May 1st, 2011, through a route that had been cleared of mines by NATO warships. While the cargo was being offloaded, forces loyal to Gaddafi opened fire on the ship, prompting the crew to rush to set sail as soon as the unloading was completed. In the meanwhile, however, the freighter sustained damage when the shaft to its main propeller was cut and had to be towed to Malta for repairs at the at the Qasar shipyard. That's in Malta. The company could not pay the repair costs. The captain and crew were stranded in Malta, and the freight firm went bankrupt with 1.7 million euros of debt. Yeah, that explains why there's a freight patrol here. The owner has continued to write to various government agencies in Turkey for relief, but to no avail. He won't get anything from Erdogan. Erdogan's he's as arbitrary a dictator as any. When all this is put together, it clearly points to a pattern in which Erdogan's Islamist government has been sending arms to their brethren in Libya to fuel the civil war there. The report was issued by the UN Security Council on June 1st, 2017, is prepared by the panel of experts on Libya, contains more information on the illegal arms shipments as well as on oil smuggling that reached all the way to Turkey. The report that was signed by panel coordinator Stefan Spitels and experts Naji Abu Khalil, Kasim Buho, and Monchef Cartas, David McFarland, and Juan Alberto Pinto Servia, also discloses something quite important. He revealed how jihadist groups included Ansar al-Sharia Benghazi and Ansar al-Sharia Sirte competed to control the Civil Registry Authority and Passport Administrations. And those are two of those Libyan groups that are pro-terrorist and anti-government even now. This allowed them to illegally issue passports, including the two foreign fighters who subsequently traveled abroad. The panel has reviewed copies of illegally issued passports and was able to confirm the identity of one Sudanese national who obtained such a passport in Misrata and traveled to Turkey in May 2015, the report said. It included pictures from a Libyan passport that showed arrival and departure stamps at Istanbul Ataturk Airport on May 7, 2015 and September 22, 2015. This is in line with the investigation that uncovered how al-Qaida and Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, ISIL, or ISIS, however you want to go about it, militants were using Libyan passports to move fighters from North Africa to Syria through Europe and Turkey. That investigation was hushed up by the Erdogan government. Of course it was. He doesn't want people knowing that. But if you live there, you would see them over there, and they would come to, Taksim Square, and they'd go to different areas in the old city, especially, Aksaray and where Hagia Sophia is, and they'd chase little boys and little girls and women and men and whatever, and drink and carouse and feel guilty when they got back to where they're supposed to go. If you know anything about the old man of the mountain, you know what's going on with this. This goes back to the assassins and their method of brainwashing, and it is exactly the same thing, no different whatsoever. According to confidential wiretap records I have examined, Libyan militants were actively involved in the trafficking of jihadists to Syria with political cover provided by Erdogan's government. Notice that word trafficking. Human trafficking, it involves quite a bit of different things. But one of the aspects of it is the movement of people for purposes of political terrorism. This is part of it. This is part of what's going on. There's a profit involved in this. Why do you think that I'm so down on it? It has to stop. It has to stop. It's just no good. And the buying and selling of slaves, buying and selling of sex slaves in particular, this is all part of it. There's no differentiation here. This movement of these jerks entails the movement of other people. Why do you think Europe's in so much trouble right now? Because Erdogan dumped all those refugees, quote unquote, on them, and they're from everywhere but Syria, just about. And there's hardly any families. What about all the Christians in Syria? You know, they didn't go to Europe. They didn't go to Europe. You know where they went? They went to Lebanon. They didn't want anything to do with Turkey, because what Turkey was doing was they were taking Christians and they were forcing them to convert. And when they couldn't do that, then they were putting them in the brothels. That's what's going on. But yeah, trafficking of jihadists to Syria with political cover provided by Erdogan's government. He's to blame for much of it. Not all of it, but much of it. And he's responsible for much of it too. One of the key ISIL operatives in Turkey was a man named Farag H. Hamad Ali, a Libyan national. He was working with other Arab nationals to move fighters in and out of Syria using Turkey as a conduit, providing logistical supplies. It's exactly what I saw when I was over there in the east, and not to mention living in Istanbul, traveling all through the country. I mean, I saw this stuff. Don't lie to me. The wiretap records show that Farag worked closely with another ISIL trafficker and procurement person named Mohammed al-Sayed al-Tohi Salim al-Shiami, also known as Abdul Hakim Misrla, which means from Egypt, Misrla, the Egyptian. A 26-year-old Colombian-born Egyptian national. Although both men were spotted by authorities while exchanging money and arrested, they were later let go. Misr is Egypt, and actually in Arabic it's MSR, Misr. In Turkish it's dotless I, M.S.I, S.I.R, Misr. Pronounced the same way. In a wiretap recorded on March 1st, 2015 at 12:09 p.m., El-Shiami was shopping for night vision binoculars in Istanbul's Karaköy district. Oh, imagine that. Near Aksaray. He was told by Farag that Karaköy. Yeah. That's on the European side. Karaköy is the main place on the Asian side. Karaköy. Yeah, sometimes I get the two mixed up. The Karaköy means black village. I lived really close to there. I'd walk down the hill and go up a few blocks, and there I was at Karaköy. That's where one of the ferry boats would take you to the Asian side. I like taking the ferry boat. So that's beautiful part of the world. Mark Twain used to comment on it, and it's remarkable. It truly is. Karaköy used to be Chalcedon in ancient times, if you're curious. He was told by Farag that a 50,000 euro transfer was made for him to purchase military-grade goggles. In another wiretap recorded on March 6, 2015 at 12:31 p.m., Al-Shiami asked a man identified as Abu Dawood which Dawood is David, just so you know, Abu Dawood, to supply weapons for ISIL. El-Shiami also arranged for fraudulent passports and secured visas for ISIL sleeper agents who were sent to Europe to identify targets and scout for the area. For example, in a wiretap dated October 15, 2014, at 17:49 p.m., El-Shiami asked for a fraudulent Libyan passport to move a person illegally. They were securing official Turkish visa stamps by bribing Turkish authorities. Imagine that, bribing a Turkish authority. Their corruption makes America look relatively clean, actually. Even with Obama and his corruption. Just amazing. Just Chicago, just that whole Chicago reek. It's like Turkey, it really is, and it's disgusting. And I know that a lot of people in Turkey are disgusted with that kind of corruption, and I know I am here. I am sick to death of what I've seen over here and what I've seen abroad. Just makes me think, because that's how they manage to maintain their dictatorships and to undermine people's civil rights. That's how they do it. It's the corruption. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. Get rid of those people too. I don't care what party they're in. Get them out. Put them in prison where they belong. They should be in there in the general population of the people they were ripping off. See how long they last. In a bid to plant a closely aligned Islamist zealot as the ruler of Libya, the Erdogan government has not only been facilitating the shipment of arms and smuggling of oil, but it has also been helping the transfer of jihadists back and forth between Libya and Turkey. The trace of evidence revealing his government's involvement has now found its way to the UN documents as well. I hope one day he and his associates will be held accountable for fueling the war in this North African country. And that is from turkishminute.com online. This is a reputable source, and I concur with Mr. Bozkurt. This is just disgusting, just disgusting. Watch Erdogan. Keep an eye on him. I'm going to cut it shorter than I planned on because I only got through this one article, but I do have a couple more I want to get to, and I'll put those up within the next day or two, and I'll follow up on this pretty quickly. But this shows Turkey is not working on the same page that we think he is. Now, if there are secret deals, I know there were with Obama. I know for a fact there were. And I'll talk about that. But the fact is that I don't think that Erdogan has the same deals with Mr. Trump. And I think Mr. Trump is holding him to the standard that he should be held to. I think it's an improvement. When I was there, what I saw of what he was doing to his own people, I was disgusted. I'll be honest, I was quite disgusted. I watched it go from an improving democracy to turning into a dictatorship overnight. People I worked with were being gassed. People I knew were even being arrested and beaten. And it's because he was being caught at his own corruption. And he was pursuing an agenda that he was actually saying, he was speaking out of both sides of his mouth. But one of the things he did say that democracy is just a stop on the bus. It's not our end. He's pushing for war in Israel. You watch. He keeps talking about the shrines there and all this. He's making it into a religious war. You watch him. Keep an eye on him. So, until next time.